So if you remember, this is the interface of the recruiter application where we had created this option to create jobs, and the job list is being shown over here with edit options and delete options over there, right? And this is the job seeker dashboard where you see the jobs that have been created by the recruiter, and you have that option to apply on for against those jobs, right? And we already created some applications by clicking on apply. Now it opens a bottom sheet where you can add the details of email ID, phone number, CV, etc., and it evaluates using OpenAI and then gives a particular score and stores in the database as well, right? So today, like I mentioned, what we are going to do is we are going to add a button over here in this job list that the recruiter is able to see, and we are going to showcase the applications against that particular job, right? So let's get started with that. So this is the project of the recruiter. These are the database fields that we had created for the applications. Now I'm just going to the main home page, right? Where we have this job title and job description. Right now we need to give a button for viewing of applications, right? So I'm just going to add this in this row itself, right? I will add a button over here, and we are going to call it view applications, right? And we can make this a bit smaller, etc., but right now I'm not worried about those aspects. I'm not looking into those parts specifically. So the job description will sort of get a bit cut off over here. So it might be better to just put it um, in a row below than putting it um, against the job description, right? So I'm just going to duplicate this row, and I'll remove the text from here and the button from here, right? So now the button is coming below the job description. Okay. Now, so when somebody clicks on view applications, it should take the recruiter to a page where the recruiter is able to see all the applications that have come against that particular job. So we'll first build that page, and then we will link it with this action button. Okay, so let's create a new page. So we are going to create a blank page, and this is we are going to call this page applications. So we create this page, and I generally start with a container directly, right? So the container, I'll make it infinite and add a column in that. Now in the column, first we'll add a title, right? We can call it applications, and then we are going to use something what is called as a data table, right? So data table allows you to show data in a particular list, very similar to like a Google sheet, a Google spreadsheet, or Excel kind of a view. Okay, so this is the data table, right? So these are the data table headers. So let's say in these headers we can add what we want. So first of all, we need to change the font of this. I'm just going to make this white, right? And header 1 will be, let's say, applicant name, right? Header 2 would be CV URL, right, where we want to showcase the CV URL which the recruiter can see. Third would be we would want to show the CV rating that was obtained from OpenAI, right? Um, Again, we'll keep this as white, and then we are going to duplicate this data table header. So for that, we need to increase the number of columns, right? So we'll make this 5 because we want to add a couple of more details. So so again, so this would not work really well for mobile view. It will work better in a desktop kind of view, and we are right now we are going to look at that, but it can be optimized for mobile as well. Right, so over here I would add CV feedback. Text color is white. Then we want to add is the applicant status, which will be updated by the recruiter. Okay, so this is our data table. Now we need to think of how to connect data of whatever applications have come in, right? So first of all, in this page, the page itself should know that it is linked to a particular application, right? So which means that in the parameter we need to add a parameter where we are going to add the job listing doc as a parameter, which should come from the previous page. So this is a document, collection type is job listing, right? And we confirm this as a parameter. Okay, now in data table we need to add a query of the applications that have come. If you remember our data structure, applications is a sub collection within the job listing, right? So we need to query applications giving the reference of the job listing. So going back over here, we are going to do this either on the main container over here, or we can even do this on the column. So we query the collection, which is applications, and we give reference of the from the page parameter, right? So document property, and we want to give the reference of this doc to get the list of documents. So when we do this in column, that also creates a backend query, so which is not something that I want, right? So I'm going to shift this particular query to a container so that it does not create multiple children of when I'm adding this backend query. So right now I'm just confirming this. So I need to add a query for querying all the applications, right? So I'm going to put this data table in a container. Right, so on this container I'm going to add this query collection of the applications giving reference of the job listing. So if you notice, we passed on the reference of the job listing to the parameter of this particular page, right? So so we are giving this reference from variable, which is the page parameter, which is the job listing doc. We need to select the property of the document as a reference. We confirm this, and query type is list of documents, and we confirm this to get the list of applications, right? Now in data table we just need to create this as a variable, so which will be based on the applications documents. Confirm, save, so that it will dynamically create children over here, right? Now now we need to link the data points for these different columns that are there. So if you see in the data table, the first section was related to the data table headers, where these we had added that as static text. Then you see something called data table cell. That's where we need to add data that is coming from the query that we have linked just now, right? So we'll go to this text, open the variable box, and then if you see, it is giving me two things. One is applications documents, which is the query that we had done earlier to get all the list of applications, and it is second, it is giving us list applicants item, right, which is the single item within those list of applications, right? So over here I'm going to select applicant name, which I want. Then I want to show the CV URL, right? So again I go to list applicants item, and I put applicant CV URL. Then I also want to link the CV rating, right? So I confirm this. Then again we are seeing data table header, so I'll go to data table cell, and we are going to link this again to CV feedback. And this application status is something that of course, like when somebody is applying, they will not update their application status, right? So what we are going to do is that instead of this text, we are going to add a text field over here. Okay, so this text field, we are going to give values in a actually, instead of a text field, we are going to add a drop down. So I'm going to delete this, and we are going to add a drop down over here, right? So in this drop down, we are going to give options to the recruiter to be able to select what is the status of that particular application. By default, if there is no status, then we would want to give a status which is something like not evaluated, or some default status, right? So if I have to define the options, right, so the options are not evaluated, right, in process, rejected, or shortlisted, right? We can have other options of like offer given, etc., offer released, to showcase what is the exact status after shortlisting, etc., as well. That depends completely on the how we want to build the recruiter setup, right? So these are the drop downs now, but the thing is that we also need to have an initial configuration or an initial value, right? So over here, there, if you see initial optional value, I'm going to use something for a conditional value, right? In this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a single condition where I'll take list applicants item, and I'll select application status. I'm going to put a condition whether application status is set and not empty, right? So the reason I'm doing this, that if let's say it is empty, I want to give the word not evaluated, and I do not want that it throws me a null error, right? So in case if it is set and it is not empty, then it just needs to show whatever is the current applicant status, right? But if let's say it is it is not set, it is the first time that that application has come in, then we are going to share a value of not evaluated, right? So those are the two conditions that we have put for initial configuration, right? Now, when somebody selects this, we need to also update the database with the status, right? So we'll go to this action button, add action on selected. Right? We're going to say update document. Reference to update is the list of applicants item. Reference that we want to update. Confirm. Add field. In add field, we want to do for application status from variable, and like any text field or other places, the value gets stored in something called widget state, right? So in widget state, we'll just select for this drop down, whatever the value is there, and yeah, that should solve the problem. Okay, so it is giving me some error that the drop down widget, the current configuration will not function properly when generated dynamically at the moment, because it is associated with a local state variable. Right, so it is, what is basically asking me to do is that I need to consider this as a separate component and update the document, rather than it being there, there within that list and getting updated over there, right? So I cannot use this action directly, right? So for that, what we will do is convert this drop down into a component, right? And we are going to do something related to passing a callback action, that whenever it is selected, that action is called back, right? So in this drop down, first of all, I'll go to this drop down and convert this into a component, right? So it is selected, or let's say application status. Okay. Now over here, I'm also going to create an app state, a new app state variable, which is called the application status, because I want to use this across. So this is a string, right? Now when this is selected, we are not going to update the document over here. What we are going to do is we are going to update the app state, and we are going to use that app state to update the document in the on the page, right? So I'm going to change this to update app state, right? Application status as set value as the widget state, which is the drop down, right? So now that this part is done, parameter 2, so we actually don't need the parameter, so it automatically created some parameters. So I'm going to okay, so it will need some parameter for passing me the initial for passing the initial value, right? I'm removing the doc reference, but apart from the initial value, I don't think we need anything else. I'm going to remove this as well, right? So I confirm this as the initial value. Now in the drop down, I just need to link this if then else condition to it's already linked to the initial value parameter, right? Otherwise it is not evaluated, right? So actually I can directly link this to initial value, and I can construct the conditional and on the main page, right? So now I've converted this drop down to a component. The reason for doing this was that it was throwing an error when we were using it within a dynamic list, so I could not use it directly over there. So that's why I've chosen this path of creating this as a different component, right? So we'll just go back to the main page, to the main applications page, right? Now in this parameter, I need to pass the initial value. Over here I'm going to put a conditional value if the applicant status is set or not, is set or not empty. If it is set, then I actually want it to just be the applicant status, application status, or otherwise it can be not evaluated, right? So that's what we are passing as a component parameter. There is one more parameter or that will pass, which is called a callback action, right? So so let's just go to this component and we are going to edit these parameters, and we're going to add an action for a callback, right? And we're so we need to add the action as a parameter. So just removing this, again going back to parameters, edit, add an action, and this will be update document. So we are going to add updating document as a callback, right? So this is an action. Okay. So we confirm this. Now when this drop down is selected, we already have that thing of updating the app state. Apart from updating the app state, we are also going to execute what is called as callback. So the action we are passing into this component is called a callback. So whenever something is selected on drop down, first it will update the app state, then it will call that particular action. So which callback is the update doc action that we just created, right? So now we go back to applications. In drop down, we need to pass the parameter of the update doc, right? And we are adding this action of updating document. Which document to update is the list item, and the application status we are updating with a variable which is the app state, application status. So so the app state is something that can be used across the app, right? So that's why we are storing the application status in the drop down in the app state, and then we are calling this action as a callback from that component which is a part of this page to update the document using this string of application status, right? So this will help me update data related to this particular application. I could have handled this in a bit different ways as well. Like I could have created a small pop-up box which opens up when they want to update it, and they could have changed the data over there. But I've just used this callback mechanism to update the application status, right? So yeah, so now we have this the applications, and we have the list of applications over here with all the details that we want. Now we can adjust spacing to some extent, right? So if we go to data table, so right now it is just giving equal spacing to everything. Let me see how we can update that a bit. So we go to the data table header, and this is the header properties, right? So this one, let's say I want to give it 20% of the space, right? And the CV URL I want to give 30%. Okay, in percentage I want to give 30% of the space. CV rating, that's just a number, so I can give it lower. I can give maybe 10% of the space. Again, CV feedback is something which is a bit longer, right? So I can give that a space of probably another 30%, right? And then I would reduce a bit of space of the CV URL to maybe 20, and CV feedback is fine. Application status, which is the last one, right? So if I go to this one, I think if I give it 15%, that should be fine. So that's sort of I'm able to manage what should be the width of different columns over here, right? So the only other thing that I want to do is also to be able to be open this URL. So let's see if we can do that configuration here itself. So if we add an action of launch URL, right, and from variable, this is the list of applicants item, applicant CV URL. So it should ideally launch the PDF URL so that the recruiter is able to see the list of the CV of that particular applicant, right? So we'll just name this applications. Now we need to link this to the home page where the job listings are and where we created view applications button, right? So in view applications, we go and we say navigate to applicant. Okay, so we have two pages. One is, so the one we created right now is applications. So we say navigate to applications page, right? And we have to pass the parameter of job listing doc, which is we can pass from the jobs item. Okay, great. So now we have the job listing. We have linked it, these applications, to the applications page, right? I'm just deleting this duplicate applicant list page. Now in this applications page, we would want to show probably a nav bar so that users are able to navigate back, or in the app bar. So on this applications page, I would give some way of getting back to the job listing page. So on app bar, we can create sort of an icon button. We can add an icon button to be able to navigate back to the page, right? So I want to just drag and drop this, search for widget, this icon. That's it. Right, so this icon button has now come to the nav bar, right? Now we'll just add an action over here to navigate back. All right, now let's I think this page is done. So now let's run it and see if we are seeing any issues in the application that we created just now. Okay, I'm closing the debug panel, making it full screen, and then I go to graphic designer and I say view applications. Okay, great. So you see we had already created some applications. So these applicant names are coming with some CV feedback. It is not formatted properly, where you're not seeing the full feedback, etc. Those are things that we can manage with respect to the aesthetics of the table. But let's see if it is showing the right data. If we go to Firebase, we in job listings, we have two job listings. One is for the graphic designer, the other one is for the coding software engineer. So in graphic designers, if I go to the applications, we see there is an applicant by my name, Yash, and then there is another by the name of Ramesh, and third one is by the name of Bablu. right? So you can see these three applicant names are being shown over here with these CV URLs. Let's see if the CV URL opening is working fine. So if I want to see the CV of first applicant, I click on it and it opens up the CV really well, right? So let's see, I can go and open the CV of second person. It opens up a different CV as per whatever has been uploaded, right? So this table is working fine. Now if we the other thing to check is that based on this feedback, etc., if let's say we want to reject, so let's say Bablu has the lowest rating, CV rating of 4, I want to reject it, right? So I am going to select this drop down and put it as rejected, right? So now for just checking if this actually got reflected in the database, let's go over here and see the application status. It is showing as rejected, right? So it got saved in the database with the callback mechanism that we implemented, right? So now this becomes like a full-fledged mini application where recruiter can create these job listings, create these jobs. There is a job seeker version where somebody can apply for jobs, and then it can come over here as well. If we go to software engineer, again we see there are 2 jobs over here. Let's do a small experiment. We go to the job seeker part, right? And we let's say we create another application for the software engineer, right? We apply now, let's say any name, let's say um, Joe's, and it is Joe's at the rate gmail.com, phone number 888 and I upload a random CV over here. Suppose I upload the basic resume over here and say save application, right? Now ideally this should reflect Jose's details should reflect in the recruiter dashboard as well, right? So now this application is saved over here. We will go to the recruiters dashboard. We go back to the software engineer listing and we say view applications. You see Jose is added over here. Apart from the other 2 applications that were there, there's a PDF URL, there's a CV rating, and there's a feedback over there as well. Now this we can very easily work on the like giving some padding to it, ensuring that if let's say it exceeds a particular the feedback is exceeding particular number of words, etc., then there is a scroll bar so that it is you can use the scroll bar to see. All those things are simple things that can be done, but that's this power of this application of Flutterflow, that within sort of 3 sessions and combined hours of probably like 5 hours, we are able to build a mini recruitment application where we are evaluating the CV using AI, giving feedback, and then we are also showing it on a dashboard for recruiters to be able to update status, etc. Again, there are many more things you can do on this application, and this is something that I'm working as a live project. So I'm going to do this, and I will also share the final version link in comments after a few days once this is complete. But basically, you can like give many other options of like sending email based on status changes, or sending the summary to recruiters, right, or adding additional plugins or additional processes where you want to share these tests to the applicants, etc. So all those things can be done in a very similar mechanism how I showed you for building this application and viewing the results in the recruiter dashboard, right? With that, I will close this session. Right, it has been a long series with these 3 videos, and again there are many more things that can be done, right, with these in creating more dashboards or making it more aesthetically look better, etc. But yeah, we'll close it here, and hopefully you get to build your own applications. Thank you very much.